Hello, beautiful humans. Adam All here, and we are back with a new installation of In the Box. I'm very excited to be joined by my first drag son, the incredible Romeo De La Cruz. Hello, how are you?
Hello, how are you? I'm good.
We are hurtling through the ether today. You're not sitting on one of my thrones, which is a shame, but soon, apparently, soon we can do that. So we will do that soon. But we're doing this Zoom thing where you record stuff, and I think that's fine. Everybody's doing that now, right? Okay. So we know that the rules are if cats arrive, you have to show them.
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely.
Cool.
They'll meow from the distance anyway.
They'll shout through a really in-depth, important moment. They will. It's just how cats work. We are here to talk about BOiBOX, to talk about drag kings, to talk about open box, to talk about the past, the present, and the future, and mostly to talk about you. How are you?
I'm good, actually. I mean, I've had a weird time, which most of us had through the pandemic, but I've been battling it through. It feels like a whole boxing match, but I continuously go through rounds and no one's saying, it's time to like stop, KO, it's fine, it's set, put your hand up, which one won. Still fighting, but I'm going strong.
That's really good to hear. You and I, we've had conversations about this before, and it has been a tough year. I think it's been really tough for performance artists, particularly from the queer community, where our going to work is also our socializing, and they both happen in a place which is currently completely closed. And I think that's been quite a tough blow psychologically, not just because you then have lost your potential for career driving, but you've also lost your support network. So you're like, shit.
Double whammy. It was a double whammy. Still it is now.
Been, right? It has been, but it's been a real game changer for drag artists, I think, and I think we've had to like retrain quite hard. I think it was so different when we started. So I want you, not for me because I was there, to talk about. I was there. Talk about your beginnings and tell the lovely children at home, tell the beautiful humans across the world how Romeo came about, how you began, and where was it, when was it, what happened inside your brain?
A lot of things. Well, to be honest, before I even started dragging, I got introduced to drag kings when I was working at Candy Bar, and I was about, I think it was like 18 and a half, and I started to see nights, I started to see a few, and when I mean few, probably 3, I could probably name on hand that I actually saw regular that was doing drag king, but I was just a bartender. I loved seeing the art, but I was always the one boogieing behind, forgetting that there was customers and I'm watching the show.
Can I chip in and say that you weren't just a bartender? You were definitely one of the coolest bartenders and very, very popular bartender at Candy Bar. Yeah. You're definitely an integral part of the atmosphere of the Candy Muck Bar, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Oh God. Good times. I mean, many times that we should partly remember, but loved it all. But really, Candy Bar was the place that really introduced me to drag kings. Realistically, for me in the UK, yes, I knew about drag kings historically, but I've never experienced in my own like ethos, with my own eyes, actually seeing the work that goes into it, but how much fun it could be. So during that period, I got a bit too involved with BOiBOX. Apple during the way, like I used to know their drinks. I actually knew the setup, even though I wasn't a part of it.
I remember that. You used to help us get it all set up, and sometimes it would be, if you were late, you would have done it. I mean, that's how cool Romeo is. Just like multitasking without even being asked. Bonkers. I remember that I remember watching you dancing behind the bar, and I remember thinking to myself, now that is somebody who's holding back. And I remember thinking that
as well.
There was definitely, I mean, you can sort of, I don't know, other drag kings at home, you probably think the same. When you meet someone who is either potentially a drag king or probably is a drag king, you think that you twig that they're also a drag king, or that you know them from being a drag king. There's sort of camaraderie that you pick up really quickly, and you can sort of smell them out. It's almost like gaydar, but better. It's like kingdar. I don't know what do you call that? Whatever, sort of like.
You need to get that copyrighted.
Kingdar, yeah. And I did twig that with you, but it wasn't me that made you do it. It was Apple, who systematically bullied you on stage.
Me and Apple had a system that I used to steal her moves, and I used to purposely dance them behind the bar until she caught me, and then she used to steal my moves. So it came a thing during that part that Apple was like, "You sure you don't want to do drag?" I was like, no. I meant Adam asked me. I said no. I was like, no, it's fine. I enjoy being behind the bar and being a bartender. That's great. I enjoy the show. Apple was persistent, and I was like, do you know what? During that period, I was in uni doing my undergrads for dance. I never thought I would get far with my dance, but I wanted to do it because it was the only way of me actually getting a qualification to do what I wanted to do. And I was teaching, especially with disabled young people and children. But I could feel that Apple saw something that I didn't. So I gave in. I admit 100% I gave in. And from the time I started, I haven't actually stopped. I had a break, but that didn't stop me. I was still active doing things, but no, I haven't stopped since. I really haven't. It helped me as a dancer. It helped me gain confidence as a performer, but it actually helped me find who I am off stage. So there was so many elements to it. It wasn't just drag in itself. It was the best buffet of things that I needed to be picked on and find out about myself and what I wanted to do. And now I'm at that part where I know what my final good meal is. I haven't got to dessert yet, but the main meal is real good.
You're into the thick of it. You got into your stride. You're feeling like, yeah, no, this is good. I could definitely let out a belt hole there. Yes, there's definitely room for expansion. Tell me about, like, because I had that journey about self-discovery, but it was, drag artists often say that. I think it's something to do with the fact that your character, much like any acting role, has to sort of come from a root that's inside yourself. So it's sort of, you see mannerisms, you see characteristics, but actually when you can only go from your own experience. It's impossible to have anyone else's experience. So the root of every character has to come from inside yourself. Therefore, drag artists, your character has to come from inside you. But it's more than that, because you play the character for such a long time that you become
one.
Yeah. Conjoined. You become part of the same being.
No, I agree. In the beginning, I feel like you're 1 and 2, but as you develop, you're like 1A and 1B. You're still underneath the same number. It's just like you have that little tweak where you know how to separate that part of you and that part of you. It's crazy, but during the way, I felt the connection of why I feel that way, but also the connection of why I display this and how I display it, and why I'm I wouldn't say different person, I'm just a different persona off stage. I would definitely, I would definitely say that. I'm more of an introvert off stage. On stage, I'm like, I'm definitely a Duracell battery that never seems to be needed to refill.
It's strange. I think I went through a journey of discovering like how masculine I was naturally, and discovered that I was a lot less masculine than I originally thought. that actually when I'm starting to take the pieces, this is how much fluff exists around that cat. That was Tabasco, by the way, Mr. Pooey Pants. So I went down a journey where I was discovering masculinity inside myself, discovering how other people perceive masculinity, looking at like what those things, how they were similar, how they were different. And also Adam started off as a bit of a lad, discovered that he didn't need to be that, and became less and less toxic in his masculinity as time went on. And I think that I relearned, because I falsely learned when I first came out, this idea of like ironic toxic masculine behavior that a lot of young queer AFAB people are sort of expected to exhibit.
Yeah, I can
That's sort of almost like there's some sort of negative stereotype that and I'm going to use terms that are too narrow but vague, like lesbians are meant to be womanizers, for example, which is obviously bullshit. But there's almost as if you're meant to be frighteningly butch, and you're meant to wear these clothes and have this haircut and treat women like this, like as if you were a lad or a bloke. And it's ironic, but it's also not ironic, and it was wrong.
I completely agree. Honestly, I completely agree with it, because when I started out with drag, I wouldn't say I fit the label, but it was the only label that I could actually relate to. And I said to my mom that I was gay. And for me, that was based on me being a lesbian. That's how everyone saw me. But during that period, the only really, sectors of, being a lesbian was either femme, STEM, or stud. And that's what I knew. That's what I saw. That's what I saw projected. That was what I heard was in conversations. That's how I heard a lot of people either identified or represented themselves. So during that time, I thought, okay, so my masculinity on that scale of what I know is more on the stud. But I didn't realize the term of stud and the different terms of butch during that period, where stud was more used in the Black and people of colors community, whereas butch was more in the white community. And I was just like, okay, I didn't label myself that, but that's how I got categorized and seen. But as I got to do drag along the way, I realized that I didn't fit none of that. I didn't know who I was, as in gender identity and sexuality, but I didn't see it as a thing that I needed to worry about, because it wasn't harming me in any way physically or mentally. But deep down along the path, I feel that I've repressed a lot, and I could have been more open with who I am, like trans non-binary. Now, if I really open my eyes to it and not really took in what society was saying what I was, rather than see who I was. So I completely agree with you with that.
And it's through studying drag and your character in drag that you start to also study yourself and also study society around you. And it almost becomes your master's degree. It almost becomes like your fascination, like your hobby or your habit, to like, how is that man walking? What is he saying? And also, how is that woman behaving? And this is a non-binary person. How are they behaving? How is it different? How am I different? How do I relate to that? How do I act that? How do I incorporate that or cut that out? And I don't think many people who've just who identify as cis ever really sort of journey through that. They do it when they're little, maybe, to because we're all taught our gender roles. It's like something that you pick up.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, you
pop out your birth certificate, there you are, you're already rolling already.
Yeah, you're praised or corrected or scolded or whatever to sort of like guide you. And I don't think people mean to do it even consciously, but that's what happens. And I think that when you say blatantly don't fit into the box that you've been offered, as it were, or taught, then I think you having to reevaluate and almost do your puberty again, or even just do your growing again, do your learning again. I think it's part of the fundamental thing of being a drag artist, which is why all drag is valid. All drag is valid.
Yeah, definitely. All drag, not some, not just one syllable or one letter.
Christ. Yeah, I mean, this whole like, I think it's one of the things that drag kings have to offer that I think is really vital and interesting is how much of masculinity is performative, how much of toxic masculinity is outdated and unusable and irrelevant and damaging not just the people around them but the person itself. And I think that drag kings like have so much to say about masculinity that like, and we're just not being given the opportunity to say.
Yeah, and then in time we actually do take the opportunity to say it, there's always someone that's taken us down for it. But the way I see it, realistically, if even not even thinking about gender identity and sex, like before you even were developed, you had your X and your Y and everything else developed in one way. It could have been with birth mother, it could be, to be honest, you could do birth in many different ways. You don't actually really know. You're just looking at the DNA, but you don't know who that person's going to develop to be. And that's why I've always, before I even thought about me being non-binary and having that as a box to tick, it's always annoyed me that when I've done forms and things like that and seeing that you've got male and female, I'm like, intersex, historic, long records of it, and you still don't include them. I'm just like, that infuriates me myself, and I'm not intersex as it is, but to know that people are putting it in front of people that are intersex, that they have to choose male or female, that's like telling any person, a man, just be like, okay, you need to be masculine, and female, you have to be feminine. And I'm just like, well, no. Females, yes, we generally have estrogen, but we can actually produce testosterone, which you lot say is only biologically for man. So it's just like, you have all of this, but everybody's just throwing it all, but not actually looking at
exactly the chemical and biological and hormonal and psychological stuff. So they're all completely different things. I mean, the testosterone estrogen balance, the overlap between male and female, like who has what and how much, is absolutely enormous. It's not like two things and there's a tiny little thing in the middle where it's like that. It's much more like that. It's much more like there's actually a huge overlap. There are men who present completely as cis, identify totally as cis, and a fully functioning male in every way, who have less testosterone than a completely cis woman in the same situation. But
talking about those two,
it's
so
crap.
when you expand it to non-binary and intersex in even more gender identities, you've got to really think about how can I say, closeted and systematic, and how is a very closed society of how you should express yourself and how you should be by the opposite sex, because there's only one. Sorry.
It's so straight. It's like literally for me, I'm like, okay, so imagine you had on that list, you had boxes to tick and it said, I have blonde hair or I have brown hair, and there was no other option. For me, that's basically the same thing. It's like, I have light hair or I have dark hair, and there was like no option for you to say red hair, because that is how common intersex is. It's as common as red hair. And it's like, it's
yeah, so I know. It's just like, I want to throw a book right now, but I'm being professional and this is
right. And even with all of that, and even with all of those things buzzing around it, there's all this taught stuff, and there's all this false science, which is just so, it's just very heavily simplified so that we can learn basic physiology in secondary school science or whatever. So it's like dumbed down, and loads of things are omitted. Apart from all of that, the performance of maleness and the performance of femaleness are societal, they are generational, they are cultural, they are ever changing, they are damaging and restrictive, and there's nothing wrong with being a cis man or a cis woman at all. What's wrong is denying everything else exists. It's just not that. We are organic beings, and we are deeply thoughtful, introspective beings in a hugely mishmashed society of like crazy shit happening.
Yeah, ain't we?
Hence drag. This is why we do drag.
Yeah, just to literally get my art, what I feel off my chest, and hopefully it's received from the other end or someone relates to it.
Right. And how often does that happen? All the fucking time. All the time.
Yeah.
It's a constant thing. We've gone off on a right old tangent, which I love. It's great.
That's right, no problem. It's all right.
Because this is all about the beginning, isn't it? It's all about the root of who your drag artist is, why you do drag, why masculinity and performing masculinity is important to you. All it's just there's so much more to it than people realize. There's so much more to it than you realize. Honestly, it's really fascinating. But I wanted to talk to you because when we were doing BOiBOX,
yeah,
there was a time when you vanished.
Yeah.
And we didn't see you for a while, a couple of years even. And I remember that we were in contact with you quite frequently and we were trying to get you to come back. Can you talk about some of the things that were going on there?
Yeah, I think during that period, I think I was 22. I think I just turned 22, and it was right into about maybe mid 23s. So just before or just in the time where I met my beautiful wife. We'll get up to that after. I was going through quite a bit, more physically than anything else. As a drag king, everyone sees you on stage and they obviously enjoy what you do, but a lot of things happen off stage. During that period, I finished uni. At the same time, I was also playing American football, which I thoroughly enjoyed, but got a scholarship to UCLA. But during that period, I was actually dealing with a lot of fluid in my lungs. I was dealing with spinal issues. So I was in hospital quite a bit. There's been times that I've actually, which is really bad, and no one, please do not do this. I've come out of hospital maybe on that day and I'll have a performance the next day and I'll go and do it and no one would know. I wasn't as frequent as performing, but no one would know and I'll just go and do it. I was at that time working at candy bar, so I was doing 11 to 12 hours. So my health was slowly deteriorating. I was losing a lot of weight, even though I was building a lot, I was eating a lot, I was training a lot. And everything kind of crashed slowly and surely during the way. I was in the questions with doctors and specialists about my health and whether I could continue to go and do my scholarship with UCLA. And I've literally got written off a good couple of months after I was like turned 23. So probably late December, maybe early January of the other year. So that crushed me and I had to work out a way of continue to go and do my master's and complete what I wanted to do. So I had to figure out a way to do it in the UK while still being supported with UCLA. So yeah, that was freaking hard. It did hurt, but you know what? I'm not gonna deny, if I did go to America and do American football, yeah, I would have done my dreams. So I'm not gonna deny. I don't think I would have found out who I was. I definitely know I would have been married, and I don't think I would have found my love of my life, and I don't think I would have been continued doing drag. So I think everything happened for a reason, even though it was a downhill. And to be honest, you were in contact with me during that time and making sure I was all right and supporting me. And how many times I used to call message Apple, but you lot always be my support system. But during that period, it was just, I think, the toughest of times.
Yeah.
But I think knowing that I had a community to go back to and a community that supported me, and I genuinely in myself acknowledge people that love me, because I'm always that one that's just like, I know, I don't know how to take comfort, I don't know how to take love and things like that during that time as well as I do now. But that was the main thing that got me through, I think, mostly. I know it was hard, but I think you have to go through the worst to actually get through to the other side. And everything else is just bumps in the road.
I mean, that's just, I mean, there's so much there: health, love, moving countries, possible dreams coming true, offered all sorts of things, and everything all colliding with each other all at the same time, plus this road to self-discovery. And there's so much there. Like,
I think I was doing way too much at once. I told off many times.
Well, that's what you're 20 to 4, isn't it? Right. But I mean, wow. What do you feel like? I often feel like, do you feel like fate got in the way? Do you think you were following your heart, or do you think somehow there's a path you're supposed to walk?
It was a bit of both, to be honest. I've always grown up, I've always been active. If I wasn't doing sports, I was doing dance. And if I wasn't doing dance, I was still back doing sports. I'm been qualified in so many stuff that people don't even know. But honestly, I had to follow fate and my heart, because I always used my brain. My brain was like me working hard. It's my brain and my body consistently. Every job I had, anything I ever done, consisted of me using more of my body that helped me increase the strength of my brain. But I've never actually took that moment where I said, what do you want in your heart generally? And that's career-wise, that is relationship-wise, for yourself-wise. And for myself, I always put myself last in that, and I looked at career and love first. And I thought, if I don't take it now, when is it going to happen? And I feel like I'm one of those people, because I've got a drive to just continue working. If I skip an opportunity and a moment that's really showing me the signs, then I know I'm never going to have that opportunity again.
Yeah, I often feel like that. I sometimes feel like when a door is open to you, hey, hello,
you just want your camera time, innit?
Yeah. You're positively glowing. UV.
You got me? Okay.
I often find that I often actually have observed that when an opportunity is offered, if you do walk through that door, immediately other similar doors begin to open. Like that when you start following the path actually gets easier. And it's when you resist the path that things become hard. My to-be wife at the time, my wife now, and I was in Brighton, and I just finished studying carpentry, and I was looking for work in a workshop where I could train up and get like decent work. And just at the point where my wife and I were, before she was my wife, thinking about moving in together, and bear in mind that she's like her main job is an actress, so her being out of London isn't really an option. And I lived in north edge of Brighton. I was offered a job in a joiner's shop less than 5 minutes drive from my house where I was living, which would have been able to support further training as well, so I could get a global qualification, which would have been really helpful. And it was a really interesting workshop, and they were interested in me. All I had to do was call them back to arrange it. All I had to do, the only thing I had to do, I passed the interview, everything was fine. Literally all I had to do was call them back. And in that moment, I was getting regular gigs in London. It was like, okay, so I've got a choice. Either I move with my wife to London and I follow this drag thing, or I stay here, try and continue the long distance relationship, which could be damaging, and which might not work for us, and go the other way, go towards the safer bet, and go to the carpentry. And it was right there in front of me.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know what it shows. But it could have gone so differently. It could have gone so differently. And I did for about 6 months after I moved to London have some regrets that I hadn't at least tried the other way, something that I was also passionate about.
Yeah.
But now I know that I was actually following my heart, and that fate had opened a door, and that I had to go that way. And I would say that now because things have gone quite well.
No, I completely agree. For me, I always say I would never lose my skill, but if I lose my love, that's a different story. You know what I mean? I'm never going to lose my skill. I could always work on it. But when you lose your love, it's not something you could work with, because you never took that opportunity to actually follow your heart. So yeah, sometimes you need to take that leap. Jump. Attach magnets, go for it.
Cling on for dear life, even if it's screaming, stop.
Do it, just hold on.
It's a journey. Drag is a journey. But in essence, like, what is it that means so much to you? Because it's so hard to try and get that across to an audience who doesn't really understand why you would embrace a part of yourself, or why would you? I don't want to answer the question in the question, because I have my own.
No.
So what is it that you think makes drag really special?
Do you know what? Drag is actually special because it's a platform for you to express yourself. For me, I look at it as a blank canvas, and you draw in your own path. You're drawing your own character. You're drawing what you want the audience to see and what you want them to feel. But you also have got the option of not being, and I'll say this lightly, controlled in the way you're meant to portray your art and put it on stage. The amount of different art disciplines that either merge together or is done single-handedly that you don't see everywhere. You don't see it broken down in a way that you actually engage in it, that you enjoy it. At the same time, sometimes you're actually educated at the same time when you're actually watching performers as well as performances. So for me, it's a full circle for me. There's politics, there's education, there's comedy, there's singing, there's movie references. There's so many things that you could take from drag to make it your own, to actually explain your own journey, your own story. Some performers don't do that. Some of them just want to do it as a form of expression of maybe a darker side to them, or a more lightful side that people don't see, or just speaking out their feelings that they don't actually express or people don't hear. So using the stage is their way of actually telling the world how they feel, and also getting what they have inside outside of them. It's a wholesome therapy. And no, it is. Yes, there is stress, but that comes with therapy. There's hard work. There is the elements of fun, but it's not just what's on stage. It's also what you write about yourself. There's so many elements from your name. Your name could be what you wanted to be called, or how you want people to see that other side of you. Your bio expresses things that people don't know about you or didn't expect from you. Some of them are really funny, some of them are really serious, some of them are really passionate. Then you go into the whole aesthetic, from clothes to hair to makeup. And the thing I love about drag, there's not, especially like drag kings, things in between, there isn't a specific way they're meant to look. You have drag kings that are secured and love their body, that are AFAB, but they're happy to show their chest but wear a bed. You have drag kings and princes and things that may not even want to wear a bed, but they can artistically attack their face and make it look beautiful scary, some of them. I'm not going to admit there is some that I can't be in the same room. They know who they are. I love it, but I'm just like, I can't do horror. Animation's my thing. I'm a softie. But it is every single bit, even music. For me, there's artists and performers that use music, and that's with lyrics and without lyrics, that you've probably heard before, but you've never actually looked at it the way the performers have perceived it on stage. The way they've took it in and actually developed a story or a story of their own that they've personally gone through. Or which is my favorite, when you get those adventure and kind of like comedy ones, I like a bit of mix and match, but there's so much to it that people don't see. They just think it's a cliche of what they see on TV or what people's like shared and things like that. But you really need to be in the room with drag kings and things and between and princes and actually experience what they do. Really, honestly, you can't get any better than being in the room with them. And even if it's first time seeing one, go and see another. It's like going out for a drink. You're not going to have your first drink and say, oh, yeah, that's great. I really enjoyed that. And then you're going to change. You're probably going to be on that drink for the rest of the night because you really enjoy it.
Exactly. And you can't say, I've drunk alcohol if you've had like one beer. I've drunk it. It wasn't that great. You know, I don't really see what all the fuss is about, actually. You had one pint of Heineken, mate. You've got a long way to go. Let's but I agree with you. I think it's what's fascinating is that it really sort of detaches the concept of genderist performance in society, and it can be played out in any scenario. So you're a juggler, but make it drag. You know, you're a poet, but make it drag. Like, how is it drag? Well, it's drag because you're exploring maybe a part of yourself that you've kept hidden, or maybe something you've noticed about people in society around you that you want to comment on, and you've gone, okay, well, if I do this, if I lip sync to this song, then the audience can see what I see, and the audience can feel what I feel. And I think that it takes a very cold person not to immediately have empathy with what a drag artist is doing and why and how and where they're going. You have to really have never ever thought to yourself, like, why do we have such rigid rules about what is male and female? And if you've never thought that, then what rock are you living under? I'm like, dude, why have you never even thought about it? Anyway, I think it's such a beautiful art form. I think it's really underestimated, but I do think that it's only underestimated because it's been so rigidly formatted to fit a mainstream audience in one way, that and people are really sort of pulling towards that point as well, because they think it'll get them more follows, more likes, more YouTube watch hours. You know, and it's just like, well, that, you know, it's unrealistic to say that that's the only performance of gender that exists. Hyperfemininity is not the only performance of gender that lives within our society, so it cannot be the only form of drag. It's basic logic, really. But of course, people who hold the door clothes, men, don't think that masculinity is funny, do they?
No,
it is. It's fucking hilarious, but
they can test ours, but they don't want us to test theirs. Okay.
Don't want to think it's funny, do they? I'm pitching myself, to be fair. Oh, well, you've been working so hard. You've done so much, especially over the last year. I've seen you on almost every fucking lineup. You are just working, even like you are like literally, you are the working. You're literally, even before lockdown, like whenever you were up and down on that bloody coach, like, I don't know, you must have just moved in. Do you have like a special coach sleeping bag? Is that
honestly? Is that bad when you go onto the same coach times and you don't really need to show your ticket because they're already used to your journey?
Hi, Daryl. Yeah. It's me again.
I knew 2 regular drivers going from Derby to London, and I knew 3 regular drivers for like the midnight one, which, if everybody knows me, if you ever see me rushing out of a venue, it's because I was getting that 12 o'clock 12 o'clock coach to go home to work the same day.
Oh no, that is hard. That is hardcore right there. And I remember that gigs used to be really late as well, so you would have had to
It was worth it.
So
worth it.
In all those gigs, can you tell me like some of the biggest highlight moments for you, some of your favorite stages to performance, favorite moments when you've been in drag, whether you're performing on or off stage?
Oh geez, okay. There's been so many. It's really mad. Do you know what? I'm going to be completely honest. Even though Candy Bar ain't there, Candy Bar stage where BOiBOX started is pretty much my prime one, as well as the RVT. Because before I started Drag King, I actually went to Burlesque with Jada Love, and she was performing there, and I was just like a little walk on, just a little walk on, because Romeo wasn't like even in development really. But from like there, RVT and Candy Bar are my heart spots, because anytime I've been there, I've always felt, I don't know, there's a sense of freedom. I know that they say Red Bull gives you wings, but like Candy Bar and RVT, when it came to like BOiBOX and Burlesque, they were the two prime events that really gave me my wings to actually launch myself, to be like, okay, what do you want to do? How do you want to go about it? And I wasn't pushed in any way. I was guided and advised, but it wasn't like you have to take it in that way or you have to take it that path. I was just like a little free cloud in that sky, and I was going everywhere.
You were a very beautiful
cloud. How I wanted.
You were a very beautiful, sparkly cloud. We were all like, go, cloud, go.
Honestly, I really was. So those two would definitely be like my two wholeheartedly from then till now. Other stages that, events.
Moments, celebrities you've met, people you've hung out with, post-show parties, moments where you like everything's been gold.
Every after party in any event, I don't know who I've danced with, and I've been messaged and DM, and it was like, yeah, I was dancing with you in like this place. I was like, oh yeah, I don't remember. We were all arms in the air and everything. But big events, probably Brighton Pride, because I never thought I would ever be on a stage doing that at all. When I done Bush Theatre, I never thought I'd ever be in a theatre. To be honest, the theatre made me feel small because I'm so used to certain sides of stages. And
that Bush Theatre, the BOiBOX that we did, BOiBOX, that was special.
Yeah.
I want to do more like
I passed out after. Not passed out, but I came out and I laid on the floor, and I was.
Didn't we all bundle you?
Threw me on the floor.
Oh, it was so funny. That was a great show.
Honestly, that was a
really good one, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you weren't there, you missed it.
Bristol Boys has Bristol Boys, Wig in a Box and Bristol Boys in Bristol. How many times have I missed a train or coach back because after doing a performance, I got real like, let's get down and enjoy ourselves. Looked at the time and was like, oh, okay, 4 hours and it's going to be okay, need to go home. So I've had numerous times in Bristol with Wig in a Box and Bristol Boys. Every performance I've done with them, from Prince to doing Horror Nights to endless ones, to be honest, because I've been going there quite frequently. I feel like I should have a membership. You should.
Do you not have a membership? That should be illegal. That's rubbish.
I love it, honestly. Whether I'm on stage or not, those two have done amazing. And now starting with Punker, Bristol, that has given me so much life to like the alternative life. Because when I was doing Carnival, we used to have alternative night called Mischief. And it was, to be honest, it helped me grow in music and the type of music and fusing music as well. And that helped me with my dance. So Ponka has, done their bit. Boomtown. Oh, amazing time. Probably a bigger tent. It wasn't the most ideal tent. But we got there. Me and Jada got there. We've enjoyed it there. I didn't ever think I'd be in a big festival like that, but I enjoyed every single minute, and it was so wholesome and welcoming. It was some crazy nights, some crazy things I saw. But do you know what? I know some people say crazy is such a sensitive word, but when I say crazy, I mean like I've never experienced so much energy in such a big place. There's acres. So when I was walking, I was thinking, oh yeah, I'll be there soon. I'm gonna be there soon. Oh, do you know, I've done quite a bit and working with a lot of people, even like Queer Prom. I've worked with a lot with them quite a bit, and in Brighton, done Bristol, I've done Birmingham with them, and I've met so many people. I've done so many events. The thing is, I don't realize how much I've done until you sit down, you're like, yeah, I've done quite a bit.
No looking back. Keep going.
You do. Sometimes you devalue yourself and you don't see the impact that you've put out, as well as the impact that you should feel for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, man, you are iconic. Like, you're easily one of the most known drag kings on the circuit by miles. If I ever turn around to someone and like, oh yeah, Romeo was at the first BOiBOX, like they're like, what? Wow. Like they're, it's like everybody knows who you are. Romeo De La Cruz. You're like legend.
Your secret assassin.
You mentioned, I mean, it is hard to pick out like your absolute favorite ones, because some of the experiences are just off the chain, especially when you're like, oh, that was such a special moment, and you keep it with you for such a long time. But I'm often, I don't know if you're the same, very focused on the times when I could have improved. And I get safe on those and trying to fix that much more than I am very good at keeping hold of those gems. But you did mention, because I would like to also talk about some of the, we can laugh about them now, moments when it might not have been funny at the time, but it certainly is in retrospect. Talking about tents.
Oh yeah, well, let's just say camping with Adam was a very different.
It was kind of fun, right? I mean,
no, I loved it. I don't think you did, but I loved it.
It was quite a small gig. It's smaller than I thought it was going to be. And they were an interesting crowd that I don't think were quite ready for what we had to bring. Like, I don't think it was quite what they thought it was going to be. I think they thought that we might be like the lesbian equivalent of like Magic Mike.
Yeah.
And then we just were not in any way.
Yeah.
It's me and Sammy Silver. And it just, I don't think that they were quite, I mean, Sammy did his whole song about bisexuals, and I could feel the tension beginning to rise in the, and but no, they took it in, they were listening, they enjoyed it, with lots of positive feedback afterwards, but I don't think it was quite what they were expecting.
No, the very first one, I remember my two performers there, because I done a modern mix of like old classic songs and things like that, and that one went down quite well. Then I went on to the other one and I started stripping, and then I saw like eyes just start and looking around. I was just like, okay, so you didn't expect this. I'm still gonna keep going. But it's not what you expected.
Yeah, I mean, but we did it. It was fun. I mean, the after party was the bit I was going to refer to. It got a bit messy, didn't it?
Yeah.
We got absolutely battered, and I had to be rolled into my sleeping bag. It was very embarrassing to have two people 10 years your junior roll you into your bed while you cackle hysterically.
You were safe. No one was hurt in the rolling
I was
process.
safe. I was, you know, but I was gone. It's incredible that I remember it, I think. Oh, a mess. But no.
You were a nice warm burrito. It was fine. We made sure everything
it was fine.
okay.
I was very thirsty when I woke up in the morning, but I was fine. We're not naming the venue for a very good reason, because I don't want any negative stuff to fall onto them. They were a great group and they had a lot of fun, and there's nothing, I don't have anything negative to say about them specifically.
Oh no, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it was great. But I'm still not going to say what it was because it was odd. What other things have you got? Any other moments that are like really, really weird moments or difficult moments? People often ask me, like, do you get a lot of difficult behavior from people who aren't like up on drag kings? Do you have any experience of like people coming to you firsthand and saying anything negative, or having any sort of negative feedback or experience, even if it's not words, just like, because
to be honest, I haven't really had discussions with anyone or had any comments back. But for me, because I read body language, especially in the audience, because I'm an introvert mainly, body language and your facial expressions tells me a bit. It would never tell me a lot about you, but it would tell me a bit. And I think I've been to, I would say three events that, one, I'm not even going to deny. One, I genuinely felt that I really shouldn't have been on stage at all. I should have just stayed on stage and just clapped my hands, because it was, I could have done a pin drop all the way from there to where I live. And yeah, it was pretty much pure silence. And I think it was, they heard drag, but they didn't expect a drag king. Because when the drag queen that was on there during that period, and I think I was 2 after them, it was a completely different response. So, you know, you read from that, but if you're uneducated on it, I'm not going to take it on myself. I just felt like I just wasted my time in one way.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make people feel like that, but when you're on stage, I wouldn't even mind if you just like tippity tapped at the end, even if you didn't understand, just in pure respect. Right. You know what I mean?
Right. Because
that's it.
You can at the very least appreciate that someone has put time and effort into getting up here and doing this, and they're paid to be there and entertain you, and they're doing the best they can. You can very least say that. No, I know, I feel your pain. I've had experiences similar where you're not quite sure if the audience has quite read the manual before they've turned up, what their job specifically is. But they're your boss, so it's difficult, isn't it? Because it makes you feel like you've somehow done something wrong, but you haven't. The problem is that as a society, we're not necessarily ready to address the problems we have around masculinity, and therefore drag kings aren't being listened to in the way that they should be.
No, that's very true.
But I think that hopefully that will, God, sucky. I'm kind of hoping that this kind of incident won't happen so much, because I really am getting a bit tired of beating my head against the wall. I can hear a cat. Beating my head against the wall about constantly, and people being like, oh, I didn't realize drag kings existed, you know, like, and it's like, what? And I know that part of the problem is the algorithm trap, that once you're inside your bubble, people outside your bubble aren't hearing you. You're only preaching to the choir, and breaking the surface tension of your own bubble and getting outside beyond that is extremely difficult if you're not already something totally recognizable and palatable to the people outside of your bubble. If you're brand new, it's going to be really hard, especially if you've been through 10, 12, 15, 20, 25 years of doing what you do, to the point that you're, you know, it's part of who you are. It's really hard to then be like, okay, guys, let's try something new. I mean, it's obviously coupled with the fact that some people decide to then do what you do without giving you credit, and then seem to somehow land the credit of inventing what you do.
Yeah, It's true. It's very true. And it's not once, and it's happened many, many times before on many different platforms and individuals. But it is the main thing is that we make sure we hold on to our claim, hold on to our reign. We make sure we keep on fighting for our art, because we can't allow someone to walk in and take it when you haven't accepted the people that actually do it.
Right. It's so difficult, isn't it? Because you kind of feel like, how can there be hope? It makes everything feel a bit hopeless when something can be so easily misconstrued, and there doesn't feel like there's too many ways of you being heard in that scenario, where you can't really fix, and then nobody can change the record once it's been set. And it's so infuriating to think that people are so narrow-minded that they just aren't even prepared to look beyond the one presentation and just say, oh, well, that must be because it's the first time I've seen it, it must be that it's the first time it's happened. And it's like, wow, how could you be so ridiculously blinkered? But we live in a very strange world, not made any easier by everyone being in lockdown and not really being able to communicate or interact with people in real life. So algorithms are literally in charge of who we interact with now.
Really agree. And the thing is, do you know what is really talking about on that scale is when I really started talking more about drag with my mum, and my mum said something that I didn't really think of until she said it. She said, as a cis Black woman, she's already in a pyramid where she is seen as unprivileged, with the fact of how long it took her as a woman and women in general to be able to vote, women to actually near enough get equal pay. And my mom said to me, now flip that, how drag kings are be treated. Obviously, she doesn't know as much as like drag kings and princes, but when she flipped it, she's like, look how drag kings are be treated. You lot don't get equal pay because majority of you are AFAB. Well, her term was, you lot are female bodied. And that's how she's like, exactly how it is in cis is the way they're treating you lot in the drag king world. You're not getting your equal pay. They see you unprivileged. They devalue you because what you're doing is, in their eyes, a strong or a what's the word? Strong and independent woman or feminine embodied person going out there and doing a man's job. And I had to stop myself in what my mom said, because I was like, when I look at it, it is literally the reflection, just in another systematic way. You're doing the exact same thing that's happening on the cis heterosexual side. You're bringing it into the LGBT umbrella. And when you look at it, you've got women, you've got trans, anybody that's not that's different to the male or masculine or cis het like persona or identify or who they are. You put it on the exact same side and flip it, you get the same thing you experience that side in the drag king world. And I had to stop and really break it down. I was like, it's actually true. Like, we're not really getting acknowledged, really. We really have to vote ourselves in to be acknowledged in whatever it is, whether it's media, whether we're promoting, whether it's going to venues, whether it's as an individual. And do you know what really hurts is knowing that I was born as a female, I had to work in a world where I was still at a disadvantage, to find myself and go into a whole nother world that I'm even at even more disadvantage. And I'm just like, how do you not see it?
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a younger brother and he's 4 years younger than me, he's 20. He could see it. As a Black cis man, he could see it. And for him, I will say it's hard for him because he's not in my world, but he acknowledges my world.
Mm.
So yeah, I that subject always gets to me, and I always have that in my head, and I do see it. I really do see it. But I really hope there is change, because if there ain't gonna be change now, am I gonna wait another 50, 100 years before a drag king is acknowledged and we're able to vote ourselves in?
Right. And when you say that, vote ourselves in, I think that's exactly how I feel about it as well. I find that whenever I've gone for a situation myself, put myself forward for a hosting slot or a higher profile gig where I've pushed for myself to go forward,
yeah,
it's not normally been successful unless there has been a woman in power who has specifically felt they need to do something to support other AFAB people who need to bring themselves up, and has therefore chosen it as an opportunity to help. And I really appreciate those moments. In this situation, it feels like, particularly when you're talking about drag is, there is very much the drag queens at the top of this hierarchy, that there are men running the show who maybe they're not even drag artists, maybe they're not in drag at all, but they're men running the show that have realized that they need to involve kings, but don't understand the power of kings or the audience that they pull, don't really understand the language that they're talking about, but feel that they need to tick the box. And I do appreciate being given the uplift and the opportunities that I've got through those things, but I don't know how appreciative I should be. I cannot make those things happen for myself. Like, it's not
I understand.
My voice, my personal voice, when I say this is what I want to do and I want to make it happen because I know what I'm talking about, and I'm coming with my experience, my skills, my my persona, my charisma, and I'm ready to give you all of these things, and I'm going to do this. I don't feel that anyone would ever look at me from my own words and say, yes, I agree, you have everything. They'd only take it if somebody else vouched for me, somebody who was cis vouched for me, somebody in a position of power, and I have none of that power. And I kind of, I mean, thus is the story of any minority, I suppose. Disadvantaged minority. And I think I've been very, very lucky, and I've been offered possibly more opportunities than other people. Whenever I have, though, I've taken it as a standard responsibility that you take others with you. Surely, for Christ's sake. Are you back again, Mr. Poo Pants?
Well, we can't move at all if we ain't moving together. Right. You've got to come in like a whole tsunami, not a trickle of a wave.
No, I don't think, because we don't really speak, because we're not allowed to speak with our own authority about our own selves. Unless we come as an army of us, no one's going to listen. When there is a possibility to do another Pride Parade, I've always wanted to do 100 King March, and just to get as many kings as is humanly possible involved, but at least 100, and just literally flood the march, and just to have like a big banner, drag kings exist, and just like literally just be a huge great swarm of incredible drag kings, each one of us our own persona, and just like literally, hello, I exist. I mean,
years, literally, because I'm just like, it's such a big representation of the LGBTQIA plus community. We are from all different spectrums,
right?
Different places around the world. Exactly like drag queens, same thing. Walk from everywhere, but we don't get to be seen. Right. Speckles, yes, okay. Little speckles, sometimes it's a bit of a where's Wally moment, and I know I've been there a good couple of times, but we've been there.
It's a good drag outfit, by the way.
You know, just read up the same way most of you like to read Instagram, Facebook, and here says the truth, the facts. Same thing, you can pick up a book and find out about drag kings. It's not hard.
It really isn't hard. There's Google. So much, I think there's a lot more literature out there about it than people actually realise. There's quite a few really interesting academic books about drag kings, male impersonators, mashers, and performance, AFAB performance artists performing masculinity. There's a lot out there, and I think that it tells a lot of the same stories that we're currently talking about. That same glass ceiling, that same sense of being treated as if you're a usurper, or you're you're offensive to men, that your success in masculinity is emasculating for men, and that therefore you should probably tone it down a bit, because it's not very fair to make them feel as if they're not special. And I'm sorry, but I read I like reading funny memes. It's a thing. Somebody said, oh, where was it? They said, convincing women that they're the emotional sex is the biggest con of all time.
Agreed. Signed, sealed, delivered.
You know,
sorry,
exactly.
Sorry, but from the time I heard when I was young, and certain people would say boys shouldn't cry, I'd be like, that's why some of them are angry. I remember when I was in school, and a lot of boys were angry because they weren't allowed to let out their emotion. And I'm saying boys, I mean boys that say and they agree that they're the gender they are, the sex they are. I know days and times when I was in secondary school, a lot of the boys were angry. They're angry, but they're not allowed to cry. So it comes out just angry or aggressive. And especially within the Black community, especially with young boys, it was seen as a behavior problem. And you're just like,
no, it's a society problem. It's
a
society problem. Their behavior is not a behavioral problem. It is a reaction to society's problem, saying that you must compete with all other men. You must scramble to the top. If a man makes you feel small, it's because you failed. If you are seen as bottom of the pile, you are a failed man. If you have to be the most masculine, you have to be the loudest voice. You have to be, you know, being tall and being strong and being, and if you're a short man, you're, you know, like, oh, ha, short men, small man syndrome, all of this shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute. You know, why do you think people are angry? Because all it takes is someone turning around and saying, you know, actually, what you've just said is incorrect. Like, correcting someone's grammar can be the one thing. It can be the thing that flips you out that day, because there's been 7 or 8 times that someone has made you feel like an idiot, made you feel small. And it certainly happened to me plenty of times. And you're thinking, oh, I can't do this. And then someone says something and you flip. But there's no way of you saying, I've had enough. And the normal human reaction of I've had enough, or this is too much, or I feel vulnerable, or I feel overwhelmed, is to release tears. But if you release tears, immediately,
weakness.
It's not just weakness. People would laugh at that in my secondary school. People would laugh, and
get bullied
even worse. It's even further down. And like, wait a minute. You're like, why don't we have a look and see what's upsetting this person in the first place? Let's go back and have a think about like what we're trying to make this person do. And I really think that we as drag kings have so much to say about masculinity, and I actually think that drag queens have quite a lot to say about femininity. I don't think either of us have the last word on it, but we certainly have an external contribution, an observatory contribution to make. And I think that this way that we're looking at owning our own masculinity and turning that into an art form to spite the people who told us no, is exactly how drag queens began. I think it's how drag queens began. And I think that drag queens began through that, and through there not being enough knowledge about identities and different identities and non-binary identities and trans identities, and then not being access to medical support or hormonal support or psychological support, and that if your identity doesn't fit, if you're outwardly presenting as feminine and people ridicule you constantly, if you come in dressed in a dress and lip sync along to a famous female artist, you're owning it and saying, do you know what? Yeah, and I'm fucking amazing and talented and clever, and I know what you see. You don't get to keep me because this is how amazing I am. And that power there is what we are doing. And for some reason, no one is looking, because they don't think that struggle is something that we have to still overcome.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. It hurts when you think about it, because when people don't think about it, because you don't live it, but it's a everyday thing. In drag is an everyday thing, especially if you're a performer that literally goes around the UK. even before pandemic, flying out of the UK and going to other places, there's pros and cons to it, but it's needed to be done. It really has, because me growing up, I thought, yeah, feminist way, but I know it was more of like a tomboy, and I knew there was more masculine in me, but I didn't know to what extent I was allowed to show it. Because when I started, I remember when I started BOiBOX, I would say I was mask femme. I was a bit of gender fuckery. I admit in the beginning I was gender fuckery. I was just like, yeah, I was getting it. I was hella camp. I'm not going to deny it. But as I grew, I was just like, I started to identify that it didn't matter whether I was presenting femme, it didn't matter if I was presenting mask, it didn't matter if I was presenting no form of either of them. It was just the simple fact of having the power of actually owning whatever way I wanted to display myself, but the power as well of receiving it back from people and actually allowing them to see you and they actually do see you. That's another step. It really is.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a long time. Yeah. It will, but I hope the fight is consistent and everyone just keeps on going, because if we stop, it's just gonna flatten over.
Yeah. Yeah. Come on, we've got to keep going. Just keep swearing. Keep going. I wanted to round up soonish, because like you're literally just sipping the top of that enormous vodka. You've got so much to go. I wanted to round things up with, I want to know what you're up to. I want to know what you plug in. Plug away. Plug your stuff in. Yeah. I want to hear what you plug in. Go for it.
Oh, well, right now I'm doing a lot of digital. So yeah, I'm coming back to lives in July, but my main focus now is my show for Melan Eyes. I am doing a show called Save My Chest, and the reason why it's called that was it's for my top surgery fund, and I never thought it was get here. Not actually, no, I genuinely didn't think I was ever going to get there, but doing through Melan Eyes has been awakening. It's kicked my ass in hosting, without denying. Yeah. But I've enjoyed every aspect of it. So for me right now, I'm focusing on doing new material, which will be coming out. Yes. I have a good couple shows. So I'll be in Bristol quite a bit, late June, early July. And then I'll be like bashing around in like Brighton, London, maybe somewhere else. Bookings are still open.
Well, there is actually book this king. And we're going to make sure all your social links and stuff are in the details underneath, and flashing up on your screen right now. Follow this king. But I mean, if things are starting to wind back, we are ending this. We're supposedly coming out of the apocalypse. I'm not holding my breath, because like they've said this so many times now, I just don't believe it anymore. So imagine that the apocalypse is somehow has changed the world to such an extent that nothing will ever be the same again, but you still have a dream that you want to achieve, and you now have the freedom to do it. What is your dream? What do you want to do? What do you want to achieve?
Honestly, without denial, I really want to fulfill my dance career. I really want to take my drag and dance together. I don't want to be separated from it. I want to dance as a drag king on a stage, and I don't mind being backup dancer, because I'm one of those ones. Once I'm in it, I'm in it. I don't need to be all up in the front. You give me a podium, but I want to represent. Honestly, for me, I really want to represent like the queer bodies when I was in uni that really didn't think as being a queer, Black, trans, non-binary person that you will ever reach that foundation, that level where you could be behind celebrities that you admire throughout your time, that has inspired you as a dancer, just to be part of it. And I would love just to do it as a drag king. I don't want to do it as who I am off stage. I want to bring this to the forefront and make it normalized, okay, that you will see more. For me, I don't know any like Black trans dancers that have actually gone onto a higher platform, a professional level of actually performing behind like big names, like showing that representation that you actually could get there.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to do it in full drag. Like, if I have the opportunity to do that type of job in full drag, then most definitely. But having like kings be pushed to that level, have that opportunity.
I want to
Like,
see you do
it
that
may be
so
small,
much.
but it's amazing.
Oh, that would
honestly
just literally fill my heart. I would die happy. I would die a happy man if that happened for you. Book this fucking king as a backing dancer and let him be a king in your music video. No one who can make that happen is watching this, but hopefully someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone can make this shit happen, please. It's kind of the most important thing in the world. Yes, I want to see that happen for you. We're going to make that happen. And when it does, the amount of Bollinger I'm going to force down your throat. We are going to get battered, mate. When, not if. Believe, because that's a perfect achievable goal. That is a perfectly achievable goal. That is achievable.
Definitely. I think I think after uni and like the ups and downs, I love dance. I enjoy it. It's my voice. But if I could take it further and show, like, regardless of all the disadvantages and all the barriers you need to jump over, it can be done. Yeah. So yeah. It's not even a what if, it's when.
It's a when. It's a when, Ro. And with that in mind, there's no more me standing in your way and keeping you here chatting to you for 100,000 years. I think we have to draw this in the box to a close. My God, I'm going to have to do some editing. It's been so fucking amazing talking to you. We had a lovely long chat last week before we did this, which was really great. Let's do it again next week for shits and giggles. We'll do it in the garden. It'd be great.
Yeah.
Book another one in straight away. In the box with Adam and Ro. But it's been, thank you so much for talking with me. I wish that you could be on one of my thrones in my box.
Oh, don't worry, very, very soon. Don't you worry.
Here, I cannot wait to show you around. It's gonna be really great. But with all of that in mind, thank you very much and good night. We're gonna finish there. Thanks to Romeo. Wonderful. Bye, everybody. Bye. Join us for the next one. Okay, bye. My camera's over there. Hi. Hi, Mum. I'm on TV.